In my last video, I showed you how I made Silly, the flight computer that will fly on my rocket, the one I've been working on for a long time now. It took me quite a while to work on the software for the rocket, because I had no prior knowledge about building a flight computer. I had never done that before. After spending time talking to people who had already built one and learning from them, I finally made my own flight computer. There are still some tests I need to complete with it, but I'll do those later. Now, I can start working on the rocket body. In today's video, you'll see how I made this fin can for my rocket, and how I used random materials to craft it. This video is going to be fun and very informative, especially if you're new to rocket building or working on your own rocket. Now, let's move forward and start the video. A fin can is a detachable part of the rocket airframe that contains things like the fins and the motor mount. Some fin cans on high-power rockets don't contain a motor mount, but mine does. To make the motor mount, I used a 9.5-inch cardboard tube I got from a Skyshot firework and made a cardboard ring on one end so it would fit inside the body tube. I didn't record that part. You can see how I made that ring in this clip, where I was making ring number 2. At first, I cut a ring out of another cardboard tube and made a cut in it so it could slip over the motor mount tube. Then I glued it to the mount. There was still a small gap, so I cut one more ring, peeled a layer off, and glued it to both rings. That closed the gaps. The motor mount is big enough for the motor I'm planning to use, and it would fit well if I chose a different design later. I cut a piece of PVC to make the connector that joins the fin can to the rest of the rocket, and after that I jumped into one of the most important parts of a rocket, the fins. I could make an entire video just about fins. There's a lot to them. They look simple at first, but as you level up, you start to understand the math behind them, and that makes it really cool. I'm not great at math, just like you, but it's still really fun to learn. I thought I could do some math on paper to find the perfect fin size, but I quickly realized I couldn't. So I left that part to AI. The fin size I got from it was a little too small. Those small fins would have worked fine, but I decided to go with slightly bigger ones for more stability. The final fin dimensions were a root cord of 170 millimeters, a tip cord of 40 millimeters, and a 100 millimeter span, not including the fin tab. I was thinking about making the fins out of PVC since I had a lot of it. I made a sheet from a PVC pipe and then cut out a fin. As you can see, the final fin looked pretty good, but I did a poor job cutting it and the PVC fin turned out a little too thin. So I decided to switch to plywood. I bought this huge piece of plywood for only 130 rupees. Using a paper cutout as a template, I traced the fin shape onto the plywood and started cutting. I don't have any power tools for this job, so I used a normal paper cutter and a saw blade. I first made some cuts with the paper cutter, then finished them with the saw blade. I tried to cut everything as accurately as I could, and I think I did a good job. It took a long time to finish, so this is the next day, and now all the fins are ready. Let's move on to the next step. Now I have the fins, but I need to mark lines on the fin can so I can attach them straight. There's a very simple way to do this, using just a pencil and a sheet of paper. I wanted to place the fins a little above the end of the rocket body, just like this. So I marked the bottom line for the fins using the paper. It always gives a perfectly straight line. After that, I wrapped a paper sheet around the fin can and marked a point where it overlapped. Now, I had 2 points on the paper. All I needed to do was divide them into equal parts. You can do this with a ruler or just fold the paper and match both points. Now I had 2 equal parts, and then I divided each of those into equal halves again. After doing that, I got 5 points on the paper. I wrapped the paper around the fin can again and marked those points down. The first and last points were the same. I hope you get the idea. Now I had 4 equal markings, and I drew 4 straight lines from those points using something straight. I checked the lines a few times to make sure they were straight, then made some shallow cuts along those lines with a paper cutter. But here's a little problem. The paper cutter couldn't cut all the way through the PVC, and using a saw blade would have been difficult. After looking around for a bit, I found this broken scissor and decided to heat it up and use it to cut the line. It actually worked. The cut wasn't very clean at first, but by using sandpaper and a paper cutter, I made it neat and wide enough for the fins to fit perfectly. I repeated this process until all the cuts were done and all the fins fit perfectly. The next day, while preparing for assembly, I trimmed the tip cord of the fins a little because they looked too big. I also cut a piece of PVC pipe that would be used as a sleeve for the fin can. Cutting the fins slightly changes the center of pressure, but I'll fix that later. First, I used some super glue to attach the motor mount in place. I applied a lot of glue to make sure it was strong, and then I started adding the fins. I put some wood glue on the root cord and placed the fins inside the slots, locking them in place with a bit of super glue. I made sure all the fins were perfectly straight so the rocket wouldn't spin too much during flight. One by one, I attached all the fins. And after that, I started making the fin fillets. If you already know about model rockets, then you probably know what fin fillets are. To make them, I used 5-minute epoxy and some ice cream sticks. If you're working with epoxy, just make sure it doesn't come in contact with your skin. I mixed the epoxy and started making the fillets, and in just about an hour, all of them were done. They're not perfect. People usually use masking tape to keep the epoxy from spreading everywhere, but I didn't, so mine don't look very clean. I trimmed the extra epoxy using a paper cutter, and also added some around the motor mount for extra strength. Now, the fin can is about 90% ready, and it's looking really good. If you look closely, you can see the fillets clearly. The last thing left to do was attach the sleeve to the fin can, but somehow, the PVC cement failed, and the sleeve didn't stick properly. It was also a little short, so I replaced it with a bigger one. I'll be attaching this new sleeve using PVC cement, epoxy, and some screws to make sure it's strong enough. This sleeve needs to be very strong, otherwise it could detach during flight because of the high drag on the fins. I'll be doing the sleeve attachment off camera, and very soon, the rocket will be completely ready and capable of flying high into the sky. Until that time comes, you guys will have to wait. But I promise, the wait will be worth it. If you've watched this far, thank you so much for your time, my friend. I'll see you in my next video. Until then, have freedom.